Hare Krishna. Welcome to the lockdown program with Krishna under the umbrella of Govardhan Hill. Today we are reading and discussing the most beautiful Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Okay, welcome Dharm, welcome Samir, welcome Vaishana Mataji, and welcome Amit. Where is... No, I missed some. Pandava Prabhu Bhagavatam Mataji. Praveen Bhai is here. Thank you. Stay here with us if you can, or you're working.
I'm at home today, day off today.
Your day off, so stay with us. Stay with us here, yeah. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Okay, Hare Krishna. Mute your microphone and just be with us. That is of the greatest benefit you can even think of. Okay, let's start off. Today, lockdown with Krishna under the umbrella of Govardhan Hill on the 23rd of January 21. So, Pandava Prabhu, Bhagavati Mataji, can you give us a little bit enlivening us with some Kirtan from your side? Some lovely, beautiful Hare Krishna Kirtan.
Hare Krishna to all of you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You're in the wrong location again, I think. You have to move a meter to the side to get a better reception.
No, we are in the same place as always. I mean, the only place.
Yeah, it's okay now.
Is it okay now?
Yes, it is very nice. You keep close like that, it's good. Thank you. The microphone is all yours.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Panchatatvajaya 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 Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Gurudeva 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 Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva 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 Jaya Gurudeva
Jai Hari Nam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Thank you very much, Bhagavati Prabhu Mataji and Pandava Prabhu. Wonderful tune. What a nice tune is that? It's just
all the mostly all pure devotees.
Keeps on going around and around in one's mind so easily. One of these tunes which can be easily forgotten. Okay, welcome everyone. Amit Prabhu, Ben Dharm, Pandava Prabhu, Bhagavati Mataji, Praveen Bhai. Thank you for popping in today. Samir Varshana Mataji. Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. So all what is missing is Rashmi. I'm sure she's just finishing her rounds. Hare Krishna. So, before we move ahead with Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, I just want to mention a few things. Last time we spoke about we have to be very careful what we read from the internet, and we spoke about Parashara Muni. And even if we read some unauthorized, misleading statement, which not the facts are usually right, not always, but the motives which are then put towards people, just like that reminds one of the Christians when in the Greek gospel it is mentioned prosimos, prosphagon, and so on, which all means food. How have they translated it? As meat. Why have they translated it as meat? Because for them food was mainly meat. So that just from their own very limited realizations, they concluded the wrong thing. So that can happen very easily. That we putting our own motives in our not perfect state of Krishna consciousness, or people, not we, people will do that easily, and then ascribing certain motives to highly advanced personalities, and then of course we causing an offense in the mind. Of course one might say, well, offenses in the mind, we have Kali Yugas that don't count. Yes, we have heard that. Otherwise we would be in big trouble if every offense in the mind would spark of a karmic reaction, but I would not bet on it. So better to be safe. But we might be tempted of repeating this particular statement to others, and immediately what was offense in the mind becomes offense in speech. And then someone may even act on it, and then it gets worse and worse. So this can be actually compared to misleading statements from the Shastra with a wrong motive and interpretation. That's fake news. We hear so much about fake news. 75 million Americans have believed the election was stolen and so on. And then that was not only in their mind and in their speech, and then they attacked the Capitol. And people were killed. So it goes into action then. So fake news is also important regarding Shastra. Therefore, we have to be faithful devotees, faithful disciples, and hear always from the right source. Okay, that was enough on that point. I had something else which I will bring up later when Rashmi is here. I would also like, please, to keep Nalini Mataji in your prayers. She's suffering extreme nerval pain in the neck, and every 2 hours she takes painkillers and acupuncture and this doctor and physiotherapist, and it just seems to be very difficult. So send your well wishes, or keep her in. Maybe Krishna can interfere in some ways. And she said by prayers of the devotees, she's in touch with Birmingham also. She felt slightly better. And so that is just that. So, last session, Ben asked about the Vedas, the 4 Vedas, and I said I will look into that. The 4 Vedas are, of course, Rig, Yajur, Sama, and Atharva Vedas, because that's what we speaking at the moment very much so. Like the last verse was disciples and grand-disciples and great-grand-disciples said took over respective branches of the followers of the Vedas, and so they explained it further and so on. So here we have, it is here, text 25, first of all, today. Let's put that in the chat, first of all. 25, it's in the chat. Veda base 1425 is our verse of today. And here about the 4 Vedas, a little bit explanation. What is the source? Yes, we should always, whenever we discuss anything regarding scripture, the source is very important. So this source is from Satsvarup Goswami. Long time back, he wrote a book called Readings in Vedic Literature. So he had a kind of an overview of all the Vedas and everything historical and so on. So that is quite bona fide, I would say. So here is a chapter, the 4 Vedas. Let me just read from that. It's just a short paragraph. The word Veda means know and denotes divine knowledge. The Vedas are mainly hymns chanted by priests in praise of the gods. For many centuries, these hymns were not written down. The Rig Veda, the Veda of praise, consists of 1017 hymns arranged in 10 books. So here we got a bit of information. What is a Rig Veda? 1017 hymns arranged in 10 books. Most of the verses are in praise of Agni, the god of fire, and Indra, the god of rain and the heavens. The use is confirmed in those trained in the disciplines of spiritual life. Known as a sacrificial Veda, the Yajna Veda contains instruction for performing sacrifices. So hymns for the Rig and the Yajna sacrifices. And now the Sama Veda is a Veda of chants and consists of 1,549 verses, many of which also appear in different contexts within the Rig Veda. So that's overlapping. In particular, the Sama Veda praises the heavenly beverage Soma. Now we're going to the Atharva Veda. It contains chants and rites often for healing sicknesses. Yes, that I didn't want to say last time when we spoke Atharva, but it kind of very slightly from long time memory back, that Veda, I remember, was associated with healing and Ayurveda and so on. So here we hear, it contains chants and rites often for healing and sicknesses. Also, the Vedic rituals are challengingly intricate. Many scholars pass them off as savage incantations, seeking to correct this view. Anyway, so we're going to the scholar. Generally, people are attracted to the karma kanda portions, which deal mainly with fruitive activities to elevation to heavenly planets. It is stated that if one wants such material opulence, one must perform the Vedic sacrifices. Ignorant of the actual Vedic Siddhanta, many people have thought the karma kanda portions to be the ultimate. Anyways, that's enough. So that was a little bit about the four Vedas, what they contain, and as devotees, we are not too much concerned about that, because we are rather on the Smriti, which is, of course, the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita and the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and so on. Okay, who wants to give it a start? Well, I will give it a start with text 25 for a change. Text 25 is in the chat. Okay, here we go. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, first canto, fourth chapter, text 25. Stri Shutra Tvicha Bandunam Traina Shruti Gochara Karma Shreyasi Muthanam Shreya Evam Paved Iha Iti Bharatam Agyanam Kripaya Muninakritam. Translation. Out of compassion, the great sage thought it wise. Who we speaking about? Great sage. We speaking about Vyasadeva. Out of compassion, the great sage thought it wise that this would enable men to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Thus, he compiled the great historical narration called the Mahabharata for women, laborers, and friends of the twice born. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The friends of the twice born families are those who are born in the families of Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, or the spiritually cultured families, but who themselves are not equal to their forefathers. Such descendants are not recognized as such for want of purificatory achievements. The purificatory activities begin even before the birth of the child, and the seed-giving reformatory process is called Garbhadhana Samskara. One who has not undergone such Garbhadhana Samskara or spiritual family planning is not accepted as being of an actual twice-born family. So Garbhadhana Samskara is followed by other purificatory processes, out of which the sacred thread ceremony is one. This is performed at the time of spiritual initiation. After this particular samskara, one is rightly called twice born. One birth is calculated during the seed-giving samskara, and the second birth is calculated as a time of spiritual initiation. One who has been able to undergo such important samskaras can be called a bona fide twice born. If the father and the mother do not undertake the process of spiritual family planning and simply beget children out of passion only, their children are called Dvija Bandhus. These Dvija Bandhus are certainly not as intelligent as the children of the regular twice-born families. The Dvija Bandhus are classified with the Shudras and the women class, who are by nature less intelligent. The Shudras and the women class do not have to undergo any samskara save and accept the ceremony of marriage. The less intelligent class of men, namely women, Shudra, and unqualified sons of the higher castes, are devoid of necessary qualifications to understand the purpose of the transcendental Vedas. For them, the Mahabharata was prepared. The purpose of the Mahabharata is to administer the purpose of the Vedas, and therefore within this Mahabharata, the summary Veda of Bhagavad Gita is placed. The less intelligent are more interested in stories than in philosophy, and therefore the philosophy of the Vedas in the form of the Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Lord Sri Krishna. Vyasadeva and Lord Krishna are both on the transcendental plane, and therefore they collaborated in doing good to the fallen souls of this age. The Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. It is the first book of spiritual values, as the Upanishads are. The Vedanta philosophy is the subject matter for the study by the spiritual graduates. Only the postgraduate spiritual students can enter into the spiritual or devotional service of the Lord. It is a great science, and the great professor is the Lord himself in the form of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And persons who are empowered by him can initiate others in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Oh, there is quite a bit there in this purpose. Any question, any comments? What do we understand? Amit, if you would make a summary, you are our summary man. You are so good in summaries. How would you summarize what we just have heard?
Prabhu, thank you for that, Prabhu. This is quite a difficult one, Prabhu, I'll be honest.
Pick a point or two.
No, this one is quite a tricky one. It's the first time I kind of heard this kind of, this.
What are the samskaras? What did you understand? What are samskaras? Spiritual family planning. Srila Prabhupada used that word. What's that? Pandava Prabhuji. Oh, yeah, okay, Amit.
Yes, I thought samskara, is it like a it's like when they calculate the birth and
That's part of it.
Yeah, and basically your actual birth line your particular. I mean, they believe that everybody's born on a certain time and for a certain reason. So it's really your birth chart, really your destiny.
Yes, that's not. That's a part. It's a ceremony at different junctions in one's life, in the child's life, like the marriage samskara, vivaha, marriage samskara. That is a particular juncture in life when the couple get married, and there is a ceremony, the wedding ceremony. So when the child gets born, the birth chart is prepared, and all of that. So what is then this spiritual family planning? In opposition to the Twicha Bandhus who beget children out of passion. So obviously, so spiritual family planning is not out of passion. Who can say? Anyone? Vaishnava.
Yes, Haribol. Is it? It's when they're planning for a child to do a number of rounds, also reading the literature and the use of certain days or auspicious times for conceiving the child. Yes. Yes,
the Garbhodan Samskara is before conception of the child, before union of husband and wife. And there were elaborate procedures and reading Bhagavatam and so on, and preparing themselves spiritually in a very high state of Krishna consciousness before, and of course planned to conceive a child, not to avoid a child, what people do also, but the best time in the cycle of the wife to conceive the child in the best favorable circumstance, in the best consciousness. Because in the Vedas it explains the consciousness of the parents at the time of conception are determining what kind of soul will be called to enter the womb of the mother. So these are all very scientific things. Srila Prabhupada gave us also a simplified version, like with Ekadashi, and by the way, tomorrow is Ekadashi. So fasting from grains and pulses and beans, it's a minimum, but more can be done, of course. So Srila Prabhupada gave us, like with Ekadashi, in India, Ekadashi, there's so many other things included, not this kind of vegetable, and not this, and not this, and not that, or fully fasting, that's of course the best, or fully fasting and chanting, staying awake all night long and chanting Hare Krishna, in the family or in a group or whatever. Few people do that, some do that. So, a simplified version with Ekadashi was just no grains, no beans, no pulses. And that is even difficult enough, because grains are almost in everything. Even haldi, they is mixed with wheat flour, and one has to be very careful. Or keeping salt aside, which one hasn't touched while touching grains before. So special, some people do like that, special Ekadashi salt. Or otherwise you will just have to have clean hands. So, the simplified version of the Garbhodan Samskara is chanting, what is it, 64 rounds before the conception of the child. Something like that, 64. Must be 64. So, after 64 rounds, one will be in a very good state of Krishna consciousness, for sure. Because that will take many, many hours, all day long, so to speak. So that's a Garbhodan Samskara. And there's a Samskara for the first grain eating ceremony. Many householders perform that when the child has got some teeth, when the child can crawl around So that particular samskara ceremony, rite, you could call it a rite of passage. So that particular first grain eating samskara, it has also a Sanskrit name, which I don't know. Then the child is fed the first grains from the first solid food, really, kind of, first grains. And the child is presented with, we spoke about that last time, with a book, with a Bhagavatam on a stand on one side of the floor, and in the other corner, a little table with coins and so on. And then the child is encouraged to walk. And then the child will walk, either is attracted by the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam or is attracted by the coins. And that gives a little bit of an indication of the tendency of the child. That has been done with Lord Chaitanya, Nimai, young Nimai, and so on. That's quite a Vedic tradition. So these are the samskaras. And we just heard the Dvija Bandhus, those born in not only Brahmin families, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, say not following the samskaras, and they are not really recognized as Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and so on, but as Dvija Bandhus, friends of the Brahmins and friends of the Kshatriyas, because they don't have such spiritual qualities also. So again, it is not by birth. And last time Ben got us the verse Chatur Varanyam. The 4 divisions of society has been created by me, Krishna is saying. Okay, is there anything else to that text? What else could be said? The samskaras, yes, Dvija Bandhus. Anyone wants to? Pandava Prabhu, tell us a little bit more. What about the Mahabharata and the Shudras and the women? Well, people don't like to hear that today. What does that mean? Huh? Women are less intelligent. Hey, what does that mean? This is quite controversial, is it? Bhagavati Mataji, what are you saying?
Yeah, this is one of this part about Mahabharata, that it is meant for women, workers, and Vijabandhus. So I would say, if we think that we are women, workers, and so on, it might be a controversial, but so it's better to think about ourselves as souls. As Prabhupada said once, that if you think that you are a woman, you will never get further, but also in spiritual life, but also we are in Kali Yuga, and our nowadays situation about COVID, it is the very clear proof that we are living in the worst of the yugas. So there is a verse, I don't remember from where, Kalau Shudra Sambhava. Everybody is Shudra nowadays. So we should be, I would say, everybody, women and not only women, we should be humble enough to admit, to accept that we are just we are people of Kali Yuga. That's why we need mercy of Lord Chaitanya, and Mahabharata is very good for us. I don't know. I personally like Mahabharata stories. It shows many aspects of human psychology, of human behavior also. And but Mahabharata has one of the main characters, or main character is Krishna himself. So even reading Mahabharata, we can always be in touch with Krishna. This is what I can say Hare Krishna.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Yes, absolutely. If someone thinks I'm a woman, I'm a man, then he's certainly less intelligent already. It doesn't need anything more than that, because we are neither male nor female. We are eternal servants of the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada used to say, these women are less intelligent. That does not apply to devotees. For the general populace, yes. And we may not repeat that in certain circumstances, otherwise we're getting a lot of stick. We have to be a bit more careful. But that does not apply to devotees. Why doesn't it apply to devotees? Because devotees don't identify as male or female or Shudra or Brahmin or Kshatriya or whatever. Devotees are transcendental. Therefore, being less intelligent as a Shudra, as a woman, it doesn't apply to devotees. Full stop. Yes, Mahabharata. I love Mahabharata. I'm reading Mahabharata and Ramayana at the same time. And Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam as well, and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Yes, Mahabharata is absolutely beautiful. And I gave a short historical rundown. You have, Pandava and Bhagavati Mataji, you have not been there at that particular session, starting with Parashara Muni, which I spoke about, the sage who conceived Vyasadeva with Satyavati, and run down to Maharaj Shantanu, to Bhishma, to Vichityavirya, and then the queens of Amba and Ambalika and Ambika and Pandu, and it's all connected, all so very much connected. In my studies, I found out, because we spoke last time, that is a connection then after the whole Mahabharata. In fact, I came across a very nice reference also. Mahabharata was written down by Vyasadeva after the Kurukshetra war. Then Mahabharata was written down. Pandava Prabhu.
What version of Mahabharata you are reading?
I have spoken some time ago of what was the only Mahabharata available long time back, 40 years back. That was Kamala Subramaniam's Mahabharata. Quite a biggish book, goes quite in detail. I have the book, but I found it as an e-book, which I can read on my mobile, which I do as an e-book for £1.74. So you cannot bargain with that. The whole Mahabharata there for £1.74. And it's written quite dramatically. Also, I have been hearing she comes a bit from the impersonal side. The good lady is not anymore bodily present, therefore maybe the book is so cheap. But it is accurate so far. But as I said last time, whatever we read, may it be Kamala Subramaniam or whichever, we compare, we confirm. I mean, in practical terms, if someone, the spiritual master is physically present, and if someone hears somewhere else something, he brings it to the spiritual master and have it confirmed by him and have it re-spoken by him and receives that same information from his spiritual master. That's a proper Vedic process. So, Srila Prabhupada is physically not with us. Other spiritual masters are physically with us. So, we compare, and I do that. May I read something from Narayan Maharaj or from here or there? I confirm that with what I heard from Srila Prabhupada. And if it's no contradiction, I accept it. If not, I put it on the site. Or if it's totally contradicting, I reject it. So we have to be always confirming with a pure devotee. Pandava Prabhu, anything more? Your hand is still up.
Just a few words. Definitely for for non-Indian.
You're breaking up a little bit.
For non-Indian people,
Yes.
who were not exposed to Mahabharata, didn't really hear about those stories from childhood. We have to get into that more or less. So it's getting more and more now. Let's say options for Mahabharata. But here, in this verse, or in the purport also, is that the point is that people like stories.
Yes. Yes.
So, like in society, the intelligent class or philosophers are very, let's say, rare. The small percentage. So only small percentage of people would be interested just in the philosophy, and will find a taste for it. The rest of the population have to hear those stories or have to live those stories. So because it gives also a practical application in life, and then we can see that similar problems were in lives of these great personalities, and how to avoid them, and so how what kind of wisdom, and then and so overall, even if this verse says it was meant for those less intelligent people, Mahabharata is still very potent. But the funny thing is that it's getting less and less known, because Kali Yuga offers so many other stories, and from my little perspective, even if I try to discuss with some people, they just take it for just another myth, another religious story made up by some primitive people. So the extent of the ignorance that is really in present society is so huge that devotees' business is really to give Mahabharata and of course Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam to pump all these stories in those polluted brains full of so many other stories. And so it is great that Srila Prabhupada gave us that literature and inspired us to know better all that. So Hare Krishna, a few words.
Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. Yes, Mahabharata is can be, this particular version, which reads like a very dramatic version, Westerners can understand that. And when someone is reading or hearing this Mahabharata, I don't think anybody would think it comes from primitive people. They will take it as a story. Yes, of course, a story. But even if they take it as a story, then they are benefiting, because right in the middle of the Mahabharata there is a Bhagavad Gita. And they takes it also as a story, but they're hearing. And in due course of time it will have its effect. So, of course, there are also, particular from the Indian point of view, not many Westerners will watch that. But from coming from the Indian perspective, there is several versions of the Mahabharata epic, which are accurate mostly, except when Krishna is depicted as impersonal time in between the chapters. And generally, what I have seen, I have not seen any film version. Every film version, the Bhagavad Gita and Krishna is just extremely childish in compared to the fighting scenes, and which are quite serious and everything fine. But when it comes to Krishna, and Narada Muni is always also depicted as kind of weird character, and the Gita version of Krishna's pastimes, I have never seen properly described or depicted. The rest, the fighting scenes and all of that, that is quite fine. Anyways, that is, Westerners don't have too much access, and nor would say they are so much spoiled with Steven Spielberg films and this and that and visual effects and like that. So when they see the arrow flying through the air or whatever, they're used to bang and so many realistic effects that they will not take that very serious. But we have also, of course, Krishna Dharma Prabhu's version of the Mahabharata, which is shorter than Subramaniam's, but that is certainly a bona fide ISKCON Krishna conscious version, which is in line with devotees, of course. Pandava Prabhu, is there anything else? Your hand is up.
No, thank you.
Okay. So you want to take your hand down. You just click the button again. Anybody else has anything to mention before we move on? Anything else on that verse 25? Okay, then we go. Vashana, you want to say something? Your microphone is on. Vashana Mataji. Hare Krishna. Your mic is on, but we cannot hear anything from you. Okay. It's on. It was off now, and now it's back on. Okay, shall we move on to text 26? Samir, you want to take that on because somehow or other we're always coming down from top and the list is alphabetical, and I have a feeling we missed you out a few times. And I want to compensate for that, to make sure we don't miss you. Do you want to read us text 26?
Krishna, very Dhanavad Pranams. Yes, I'm okay. I don't mind being missed out as well. It's no problem. But yeah, I can read 26, no problem. Evam Pravityasya Sada Bhutanam Shriyas Divja Sarvatma Ganapi Yada Natusyad Dridayam Tate. Translation and the purport. By His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada.
Tata, not tate, tata.
Tata, sorry. Twice-born Brahmana, still his mind was not satisfied, although he engaged himself in working for the total welfare of people. Sri Vasudev was not satisfied with himself, although he had prepared literatures of Vedic value for the all-around welfare of the general mass of people. It was expected that he would be satisfied by all such activities, but ultimately he was not satisfied.
Okay, very short purport. What do you think? Why wasn't he satisfied? He's writing the Mahabharata. We are satisfied when we're reading the Mahabharata or hearing it. Why wasn't he satisfied? What do you think, Sami?
Was it because the essence wasn't being received by...
What's the essence?
Was it because he was thinking that...
No, you're on the right track. Because the next verse explains it's something with essence. So what is the essence?
The essence is obviously to love the Lord.
It's what?
The essence is to love the Lord.
Yes, can you be more specific? What does it mean to love the Lord?
To love the Lord means to serve him and his devotees.
Yes, being engaged in devotional service. That's the essence.
Yeah.
Yes, he wasn't satisfied because the Mahabharata doesn't really bring that out. But the Bhagavatam brings it out. Every page what we're reading now, every page brings it out, the essence of loving devotional service to the Lord. That's the essence. And the Bhagavatam brings it out. Okay, is there anything more to be said about this very short purport and verse? Samir, you have anything else?
No, I don't, Prabhupada.
Okay, let's move on to 27. It's also short. Vaishana Mataji, you want to take on 27? We cannot hear you. Something has gone wrong. Your microphone is on, but we cannot hear a single word. Okay, we'll keep you. Maybe you can fix it. Rashmi Mataji, you want to take on 27? Welcome anyway. By the way, welcome. 27.
Prabhuji, can I just listen today?
That's okay. Ben, what about 27?
Nati prasidat dridaya saras vachyas tate sucho vital kayan vivikta sta idam kovacha dharmavit. Translation. Thus the sage, being dissatisfied at heart, at once began to reflect, because he knew the essence of religion, and he said within himself, purport by His Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The sage began to search out the cause of not being satisfied at heart. Perfection is never attained until one is satisfied at heart. Thus, this satisfaction of heart has to be searched out beyond matter.
Can you say a few words about it? That's a beautiful verse, actually. Beautiful verse.
Well, although Vyasadeva had done a huge undertaking by separating the Veda into the 4 Vedas, and he undertook the task of compiling the Mahabharata. Still within his heart, he was not fully satisfied. So he began to think and reflect. He began to reflect about the reason why he didn't feel fully satisfied. So it was bothering him. So now he's reflecting, why is this why I'm not feeling fully satisfied. So he began to question this.
But the question arises, what can we learn from this? What can we learn from this little short purport?
Well, just what Prabhupada is saying there is just that if you're not satisfied, what Prabhupada says, like perfection is not attained until you're satisfied. So that's a good indication of not having attained perfection or achieved perfection.
What's a crucial word in this purport in regards to what you just said?
There you go.
I think Samir wants to come in.
Where is Samir? He's not even... Oh, right. Okay, he's not on my screen. Yes, Samir. What's a crucial word?
Crucial word is you cannot find satisfaction on the material platform.
Beyond matter. That is a crucial word, right? Otherwise, one might think, I'm not satisfied. I don't have that latest gadget, or my bank balance is not right, so I should reflect on it. No, that is all about spiritual matters. If we are not satisfied, we have to look in ourselves beyond matter. What could be that reason of dissatisfaction? Because it's important, because perfection can be only reached if we are satisfied in heart, beyond material considerations. So if someone, meaning if we are practicing our devotional service and we do it properly, then we should be satisfied within our heart. And if not, we have to find out why. What is the obstacle? And then we have to remove the obstacle, and we're making progress. Anything more, Ben?
No, it's just quite a small verse and a small purport. Not a lot really to be said about it.
Yes, but I mean, that is a really, really important point, isn't it? Perfection is never attained until one is satisfied at heart. We all want perfection. Satisfied at heart beyond matter. We have to search out why we're not satisfied spiritually. Okay, Vaishnav Mataji, is your microphone now working? Could you give it a try?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, good.
Oh,
Sometimes going out and reconnecting is a solution. So can you take on the next verse, which is 28-29?
Okay. 28.
Because yours was very short.
No. Sorry, I'm just trying to get that next. 27.
It's a double verse, 28-29.
Right, okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Drita Vratena hi Maya Chandamasi Guraho Jnana Naya Manita Nirviya Likena Grihitam Chanusastanam Bharata Vyapada Sena Hi Amna Yathascha Pradasitaha Drishyate Yatra Dharmadi Sri Sudra Divir Api Uta. Translation. I have, under strict disciplinary vows, unpretentiously worshipped the Vedas, the spiritual masters, and the altar of sacrifice. I have also abided by the rulings and have shown the import of disciplic succession through the explanation of the Mahabharata, by which even women Shudras and others, friends of the twice-born, conceive the path of religion. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. No one can understand the import of the Vedas without having undergone a strict disciplinary vow and disciplinic succession. The Vedas, spiritual masters, and sacrificial fire must be worshipped by the desiring candidate. All these intricacies of Vedic knowledge are systematically presented in the Mahabharata for the understanding of the woman class, the laborer class, and the unqualified members of Brahmana, Kshatriya, or Vaishya families. In this age, the Mahabharata is more essential than the original Vedas. Hare Krishna.
Okay, can you say a few words about that?
It's got quite a lot in it. Basically, it's still, it's explaining how this is done under very strict disciplinary vows. The Vedas have been worshipped. Is that what it's trying to say? And
what are the disciplinary vows you just mentioned?
Is it the disciplic succession? How they have shown through the explanation of the Mahabharata?
Yeah, but what one has to, it says here one has to undergo strict disciplinary vows in the disciplic succession. What could that be?
Is it performing the rituals and sacrifices and obeying?
We don't perform rituals and we don't perform sacrifices very much.
But they do. I mean, when this was written, isn't it saying that?
No, that applies to us today. No one can understand the import of the Vedas. So we want to understand the import of the Vedas as well.
Yes.
What is the disciplinary vows for us today?
Well, to obey the rules and regulations, isn't it? Of
which are
worshipping, smaranam, kirtanam.
No, rules and regulations you're speaking about. Which are the rules and regulations?
Well, to be able to understand and be in Krishna conscious and to be disciplinary, I mean, to discipline oneself.
What are those disciplinary vows for us today?
Well,
you spoke of rules and regulations. What are the rules and regulations for us today?
Well, chanting of the...
Chanting 16 rounds, yes. What else?
The vows, the 4 regulative principles.
Which are?
No meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, and no association outside marriage.
Yes.
And chanting of the 16 rounds. And fasting.
No gambling. Yes, fasting in the Ekadashi. No gambling means also no mental speculation. That is sometimes overlooked. No gambling means no mental speculation. So not making our own mental concoction. That is also gambling. And no intoxication includes, of course, tea and coffee as well. So five principles, sir. 5 principles. So 4 don'ts and 1 do 16 rounds or anything lesser in order to get to the point of 16 rounds. So what else can be said?
I was actually going to mention, I was trying to speak when my mic was not working, the 2 paragraphs before about women.
Yes.
And I think in Mahabharata, they show the sacrifices of women like Mata Kunti, Draupadi, and even Mata Satyavati, and Ma Gandhari. I think they were the most, and there's lots of lot written on Kunti Ma, hasn't there? I'm surprised. I mean, it's such a high level of devotion, and they're showing very strong women. This makes me feel like, when they're saying women are sort of low class, but in the Mahabharata, it's the women who have taken the most of the brunt and everything, really.
Yes, these are great women you just mentioned. Absolutely great, strong personalities. And I have heard it. The Mahabharata war would not have taken place. Of course, was Krishna, but in a sense would not have taken place. It was all because of Draupadi.
Yeah.
But of course, behind that is more, that it was all because Krishna wanted to rid the earth and so on. Samir.
Yeah, also, as we mentioned before, I don't know if you were online then at that time, but it doesn't apply to devotees. So if you're a woman and you're a devotee, it doesn't apply. And we're not looking at the platform of the body. We're looking at the soul.
Absolutely. Yes, all these things don't. But regulative vows that do apply for devotees.
No, I'm talking about because Varsana is saying that the women.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes. Of course. Okay, Vaishnava Mataji, is there anything more to be said about this particular text?
No, not that I can think of.
That is very interesting. In this age, the Mahabharata is more essential than the original Vedas. We, in the line of our disciplic succession and Srila Prabhupada, we don't hardly deal with the original Vedas. Yes, we deal much more with the Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Upanishads, Upanishad, and so on. Much more. Okay, let's move on. We're going to Amit. Amit, you want to take text 30? Last time we spent much discussion on just 2 verses. Today we're moving quite swiftly ahead. Sometimes like that, sometimes like that. Okay. So that is text 30, Amit.
Okay. Tapayai bata me dahil. Hi atama che vatamana manna vibhu. Asampana iva.
Asampana
iva bahati. Bhati.
No, you're right. Bhati, yes, Bhati.
Okay. Brahma Vasya Satama. Translation: I am feeling incomplete, though I myself am fully equipped with everything required by the Vedas. Purport: undoubtedly Sri Vasudeva was complete in all the details of Vedic achievements. Purification of the living being submerged in matter is made possible by the prescribed activities in the Vedas. But the ultimate achievement is different. Unless it is attained, the living being, even though fully equipped, cannot be situated in the transcendentally normal stage. Srila Vasudeva appeared to have lost the clue and therefore felt dissatisfaction.
Okay, he lost the clue. Hare Krishna appeared to have lost. So, can you say something about this verse?
Okay. I think what my interpretation is that you may feel that you are fully equipped, say understanding all the Vedas and going to spiritual and light in understanding the knowledge, but a part of you they feel incomplete because there's always more to learn.
Yes. First of all, don't say it is my interpretation. We don't make any interpretation. It's my understanding would probably be a better way of saying
yes,
it.
Yes.
There is more to it. There is more to it.
I mean, in this instance, I think Srila Vāsadeva, he had transcendentally, he understood everything, but he still felt that there was something missing.
What was missing?
Well, he felt dissatisfied. He just said,
"Yeah, but why?"
He doesn't. Well, this the final. He felt the final clue. Even though
final clue. What is that final clue?
I think what he's saying is that maybe you have to keep searching. Even though you feel that your everything, there is still that final bit more to understand.
Yes, is it just an open-ended, or is it a definite clue what needs to be understood? Or is it just an open-ended research eternally? He has lost the clue. So Srila Prabhupada speaks here of very clear, what is a clue? Samir just spoke about it. What is that clue? Why he felt dissatisfied?
The clue is obviously devotional service of the Lord.
Absolutely. Devotional service to the Lord. And we shall not forget, because of this, and his spiritual master instructed him. After that, his dissatisfaction he brought to his spirit. Who is the spiritual master of Vyasadeva? Ben, who is the spiritual master of Vyasadeva? Or anybody else?
Narada Muni.
Narada Muni, yes. Is that what you wanted to say, Zamir? Narada Muni Bajai Bina Radhika Ramananame. Yes. Interesting, in the previous verse, it was mentioned Srila Vyasadeva spiritual masters in the plural. What does that mean, spiritual masters? Why is it in the plural? Anyone?
Because coming in the line of disciplic succession is a previous acharya, so there's more than just one spiritual master.
I thought one can only have one spiritual master. Ben.
What about the previous acharyas? They're all delineating knowledge, spiritual knowledge, and they've trained up your spiritual master.
But I heard one can only have one Diksha Guru, Samir.
Yeah, but you can have millions of Shiksha Gurus.
That's the answer. Samir?
Yeah, I was going to say Shiksha Gurus.
Shiksha Gurus means instructing spiritual masters, right? And if we researched, we probably find somewhere in the Bhagavatam said Narada Muni was his Diksha Guru, I would think so. But there must be other, and perhaps somewhere it is mentioned, other Shiksha Gurus. He or rishis, or he accepted as his instructing spiritual masters. So yes, that is the plural. So the clue is devotional service, or as Zamir mentioned, love for Krishna, which is the end of devotional service. Of course, that's not the beginning. That's the end. That's Krishna Prema. What comes before Krishna Prema? What is a success? That's a very important question. What are the successive stages? And we shall remember that. Who can say? What are the successive stages? Krishna Prema. Because Samir, you're speaking of love of Krishna. That means obviously Krishna Prema. What are the stages before that? There's a verse in the Upadeshamrita, Rupa Goswami. Ben, any? What are the steps? We're not just suddenly falling into Krishna Prema. These steps are successive. One has to, step by step. It's not. So, yes, Samir?
Are we talking about the 9?
No. We're not talking about the 9 type of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, and so on. No, the progressive steps.
You're talking about Nishtha Ruchi.
Yes. Very important verse. Adau Shraddha tata satusango ta bhajana kriya tato nartha nivritti syat tato Nishtha Ruchis tata asaktis tato bhavas tata. So, what does it start off? Ben, you just said it so nicely. Starting with what?
Starting with Anartha Nivriti.
No, before that.
Or Bhajana Kriya.
No, before that.
I don't know.
Shraddha, faith.
Sorry.
Right? Little spark of faith is there. And then what is next? Samir. Or anybody else? What's next? Vaishnavamataji. After faith, after Shraddha. Atau Shraddha tato satu sango.
Is it bhajans or kriya? Which
No, not yet. Satu sango. Satu sangha. What's Satu sangha?
Sadhu Sangha is the correct company. Sangha
Yes, association of devotees.
Yes.
So these steps are very, very important. And we shall kind of try to remember that Shraddha, faith. Then one comes into the association of the devotees, Sadhu Sangha. What's next? You mentioned it, Bhajana Kriya. What's Bhajana Kriya? Anyone? Ben? Samir? Vaishana?
Well, bhajans is singing and praising the Lord.
Yes, it's devotional service under the instruction of the spiritual master. Regulated devotional service. Once we are in the association of devotees, we're engaging in regulated devotional service. Means following the 4 principles, chanting Hare Krishna, and whatever else. Perhaps some deity worship, perhaps some cooking, and so on. What comes next after Bhajana Kriya? Engagement in devotional service. What's next? Ben, you mentioned it before as a starting point. It's the 4th step. What was it again, Ben?
Was it Anartha Nivriti?
Yes. What is Anartha Nivriti?
Becoming free from all the, they call dirty things in the heart.
Exactly.
All material desires.
Yes, because we are engaged in devotional service, we're chanting Hare Krishna at that stage, and we're executing devotional service. Chanting Hare Krishna is devotional service also. The main devotional service. Then we're becoming purified. Then what is next? After Anartha Nivriti, once things getting shuffled out of the heart, all dirty things starting to clear up, then what? What happens to our faith after that? You could see that as a progression of faith, actually. What's next? Samir? Ben?
Is it you become fully fixed, do you?
Yes, Nishtha, fixed, steady. Nishta, that means fixed, steady. So we become.
I just sent a list on the chat.
Okay, thank you. So fixed and steady in our faith, it becomes like lions on a rock. Our faith is becoming so strong at that stage that nothing in the world can shift it. And our devotional service, our chanting of Hare Krishna and any other devotional service becomes so strong like lions on a stone. Nothing can deviate us from that. And then comes what? Ben?
After which one?
After Nishta, firmness, fixedness.
After Nishta is Ruchi.
What's Ruchi then?
Ruchi means a taste.
Then we get a real taste. We may get some taste earlier on, even at the stage of Shraddha or Sadhu Sangha, but that's not actually that real taste what we're talking. This is a real taste, Ruchi. So that taste before that, maybe we get a free sample of a little bit of some spiritual taste. That's just a drop, but that Ruchi state, the taste comes in bucket loads. We are so fixed and then we really get the taste. What's next?
A Shakti.
What's that?
Attachment.
Yes, and we become so attached. Well, it's not surprising if we get that taste of Krishna, the sweetest of the sweetest, the greatest taste which we don't find in this material world with any amount of sense gratification. This is beyond all material possible sense gratification. That is beyond even the enjoyment in the heavenly planets. Then we become, after so much taste and so much fixedness, we become attached, naturally. If something is so great, we become attached. Even we think sense gratification is so great, we become attached there, but this is on the transcendental level. It is real taste and real attachment. What's next, Ben? Or Samir, or anybody?
Next is Bhava.
What's that?
Is love.
Yes, that is the budding stage of love of Godhead. Transcendental emotions are exchanged with the Lord. That's just the forerunner of prema. And prema is pure love of God. So, when we speak of love for the Lord, then we're speaking of this prema, or at least bhava stage. And that doesn't come that easy. That has to go through Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana, Kriya, Anartha, Nivritti, Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti. Otherwise, it's just something different. And we shall not try to imagine we have some love, actual love. We have some feelings for Krishna and we have some kind of love, but that is not comparable with that bhava. When we speak of love of God, we're actually speaking of prema, or at least bhava. That is love of God. But by that, once we reach that state, that is not a cheap thing. That is, we're certainly on the liberated stage there. It's not a cheap thing. And that we cannot reach that if not anartha nivritti, all dirty things have gone from the heart. All material desires have disappeared. And we become fixed. And then we're getting a taste. And we're getting attachment. And then we come to bhava and prema. So this is very important. We'll come back to that again and again, because it is so important. And there is no queue jumping. Of course, if we get the mercy of a pure devotee, and actually all these stages, we cannot reach these stages of prema or bhava without the mercy of a pure devotee. So without the mercy of a pure devotee, we cannot. On our own, it's impossible. It's even on our own, when we have Shraddha and then we have Sadhu Sangha, we're already not on our own. We have the association of devotees. And then we executing devotional service under the spiritual master instructions. So, but we need the mercy of a pure devotee. And then this process can be actually accelerated. But it appears like, and also from personal experience, it appears like this Arnarta Nivritti stage is a very long stage. It just appears like it's dragging on forever, but it is not. There comes a point when we actually really can see the dirty stuff is actually disappearing. Particularly if we're chanting our recommended, our fixed rounds with attention and without offenses. Then, by the mercy of a pure devotee, that process can be accelerated. So we can judge ourselves how much dirty things have disappeared from our heart, how much dirty things are in our mind still, because the mind has to become also clear. And the intelligence has to become also clear, spiritual intelligence, very clearly focused. And then we reach the goal. Once we reach that prema stage, or even bhava stage, then we're going back home to Godhead after leaving this body. There's no question about it. Okay. What else? Anything else, or shall we move on? Let's move on. Text 31. Who wants to take that? Ben, you, Amit. No, who was last? Amit was last. Let Ben. You want to take on text 31?
Kim va Bhagavata Dharma na prayena nirupita priya paramahamsanam taevahi akyuta priyaha. Translation. This may be because I did not specifically point out the devotional service of the Lord, which is dear both to perfect beings and to the infallible Lord. Purport by Divine Graces Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada. The dissatisfaction which was being felt by Srila Vyasadeva is expressed here in his own words. This was felt for the normal condition of the living being in the devotional service of the Lord. Unless one is fixed in the normal condition of service, neither the Lord nor the living being can become fully satisfied. This defect was felt by him when Narada Muni, his spiritual master, reached him. It is described as follows.
Okay, say something about it.
So this was the point, the whole point.
That was a clue, right?
Yeah, this was the
missing clue.
This was the missing
link.
The missing link. Because he hadn't really pointed out devotional service to the Lord. So that was why he was feeling this dissatisfaction in his heart.
Anything else?
Well, he's making the point as well that this is the normal condition of the living entity, to be engaged in devotional service to the Lord. And if that's missing, then there's a constant dissatisfaction. The living entity cannot be happy, and neither is the Lord happy.
Isn't that interesting? That's interesting. That even Krishna is not happy if that is missing. No, we are happy. Neither Krishna nor we can be fully satisfied if that devotional service is missing. Because Krishna wants... Why can Krishna not be fully satisfied?
Well, because the relationship is 100% service with no ulterior motives. Then it's pure. But if it's alloyed, then there's a degree of selfishness is within that devotional service, so it's not pure. So that lack of purity stops it from being perfect and pure, which creates a degree of dissatisfaction.
Absolutely. Very well explained. Thank you. Can you give a material example just to even further make that clear, or anybody else, a material example? An example we can all relate to. Samir.
Maybe material example can be the father is equally wanting his child to have a relationship with him, as well as the child having a relationship with his father. So if it's if we want to do it independently or we move away, then neither the father or the child is happy.
Yes, take that a little bit further. The father loves his child, wants his child to love him, and the child wants to love the father. But if the child loves the father only because the father gives pocket money, neither the father will be fully satisfied, nor will the child be fully satisfied, isn't it? Because there is some motive. How much will be the father be satisfied if the child loves the father just for the sake of loving him? That's pure. But if you do, I love you, Daddy, when will I get my pocket money? That's the motive comes in. So it's the same with Krishna. Just the same with Krishna. Krishna feels. He knows immediately if we have anything else. I love you, my dear Krishna, but can you do this and that and this and that? A whole list of things. So that is not satisfying for Krishna. Neither is it satisfying for us. We are also not satisfied. It's a child who he knows very well, I love my father, I should love my father without the pocket money, but somehow or other I love him because of the pocket money. The child is not satisfied either, nor is the father. Simple example. Thank you, Samir. Good example, child and father.
I've had another example.
Let's hear.
It's like sweet rice.
Good example, yes. Say it.
This sweet rice has got some sand inside it.
Welcome, Billy.
Sweet rice, if it's got some sand inside it.
Yes.
Sweet rice is very palatable and enjoyable.
Yeah.
To the tongue. And we savor this and we enjoy it. But if there's some sand, it can spoil it.
It will definitely spoil it. Nobody wants to bite on sand grains.
But it's like, similarly, that's like our relationship with Krishna.
Yeah.
If our relationship is pure, then it's like sweet rice with no sand. But if there's ulterior motives and personal desire, as well as a degree of devotion and love, then it's like sweet rice with the sand.
Good example. Thank you very much. Question. First of all, welcome, Billy. Oh, gone already? Okay. Stumbled in by mistake. What are those impurities? So two kinds of impurities, basically, or a mixture of everything. What are these types of sand in the sweet rice, which contaminates our pure love? Samir.
We're still on the material platform.
Can you be more specific?
Yeah, we still have
desire for what?
Material desires for sense gratification.
Karma. Fruitive desires. We want some fruit, something tangible materially back. Yes. Karma Mishra Bhakti. Bhakti mixed with karma, with fruitive desires, material desires. What's the other one? The second one. A little bit more advanced. Ben.
Karma mixed with Gyan. Bhakti mixed with Gyan.
What does Gyan mean?
Gyan means, it's mixed with knowledge, in terms of knowledge of impersonalism.
Mental speculation, we could say.
Empiric knowledge, mental speculation.
Yes, philosophical speculation also.
Philosophical speculation.
Yes, and that's called Karma Mishra Bhakti. Mishra means mixed, obviously. So, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Karma Mishra Bhakti and Jnana Mishra Bhakti. These are the two types of sand in the sweet rice. Sounds very simple, only two things. But to get rid of all our material desires and just serve Krishna without expecting any reward, any fruitive reward, or get rid of all mental speculation and accept Krishna as he is. Like Bhagavad Gita as it is. Then we're approaching pure bhakti. Okay. We approaching 9 o'clock. A little bit of Kirtan, I would say. Or is there anything else? Anyone has anything to share? How did Food for Life go?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, I actually cooked, but I was worried about the snow. And I think...
what you were worried about?
Well, because there was snow, I didn't realize, I thought there might not be so many people waiting outside.
Okay.
So, I said if there's a lot of food left over to take it to the Dawn Center, just in case, But I was pleased because I managed to cook today.
So everything got distributed?
Yes, they managed to do that. So that was good. I don't know whether she did go to the Dawn Center or not, but I shall speak to her later. Yeah. There was something from last week, remember?
Yeah.
You asked me to check out, for somebody to check out. I said about where Krishna says it's important to discharge one's own duty.
Yes.
And I remembered a verse from that.
Okay, let's hear.
And I found it today from the chapter 3, text 35 on Karma Yoga, where it said, I read the translation.
Please, yes.
It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though they may be faulty, than another's duties. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duties, for to follow another's path is dangerous.
That are very strong words, isn't it? What does that mean?
Well, it means that you should continue doing your own duties and not try to do somebody else's. And even though if your duty is done badly, it's better that way. The progress will be there rather than trying to do somebody else's duty, isn't it? And
what duty are we talking about?
Well, prescribed duties in full Krishna consciousness.
Like
really.
what?
Well, it's just talking. Well, spiritual duties really. For Lord Krishna. So it's like saying, we have this a way with Krishna consciousness to do, as you spiritual progress, like chanting and doing puja or any rituals, and it's to obtain the qualifications and then go ahead.
But this is everybody's duties. No, we're talking about Varnashram here.
Right.
Remember, Rashmi, you might.
I haven't read the whole chapter, but this was we were discussing this last time.
Yes.
About the conversation between Arjuna and Krishna, where he tells Arjuna to do his duty.
Yeah. What was his duty?
Well, to fight.
Yes. So we're talking about Varnashram because he was a Kshatriya then.
No, I was just going to make that point because, you made an error, Varshana, in as much that when you mentioned about duty, you mentioned about devotional service, but within devotional service, bhakti, the devotees, they could perform any duty. It doesn't really matter. It's all bhakti. But in the Varnashram Dham system, it's obviously broken up by the different orders, and within each order there's a specific duty that's been outlined for anyone in that order. That's what the meaning is like. Is meaning if you're a Kshatriya, don't try and become a Brahmana, or vice versa, don't try to interchange any of these different varnas. Just stick to your own varna, even if you don't perform it perfectly. It doesn't matter.
Yes, Krishna using very strong words. Even destruction is better than to switch over. And you might remember we spoke last time, said only very few personalities have not been sticking to their own duty, like Dronacharya. Dronacharya was a Brahmin, but he was fighting her. So these great personalities like Drona, they can do that. But generally, it becomes very clear, like you said, Vaishana, well said Arjuna, Krishna wanted him to do his duty, to fight. So it refers to Varnashram duty. And I wanted to say, Rashmi Mataji, you might remember when Sundar Gopal explained karma yoga. One should engage in his own, I don't remember how he exactly put it, in his own, one should engage in one's own propensities, you could say. Because this is our nature. One has to follow one's own nature on that level of Varnashram Dharma. Follow one's own nature. And that could be classified as karma yoga. Krishna is said because yoga is not just karma, fruitive activities. Karma and karma yoga are two different things. Karma yoga means it is we following our nature, but Krishna is there in the picture, and we're getting purified little by little by little. And in that sense, karma yoga, because Krishna is there, it's non-different from bhakti yoga. Sometimes it is said like that. Karma yoga, if someone thinks karma yoga and bhakti yoga are different, then that is a mistake to think like that. Because we could compare it, karma yoga, with we are dirty, but we're standing in the shower. Oh, you have been gone. I didn't even realize that. Jayanti Bai, okay.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. That makes it more clearer. In fact, I'd forgotten what the question was, actually. I found the answer. I'd forgotten what the question was last week.
Yes, that's a very nice verse you found. Very nice verse. One should stick to one's own nature. One cannot. And Krishna said at one point, even if you want to go to the forest and meditate and whatever, you will be forced to follow your own nature. Will be forced. On that level, we'll be forced to follow our own nature. We cannot but follow our own nature. Of course, once we transcend through devotional service and bhakti yoga and all these steps from shraddha to prema, then we transcend even our own nature at that level. We're leaving all our, because our nature is material, of course, but it will help us to progress on the spiritual path. As we have mentioned previously, we have a thorn in our foot and we're taking another thorn to take the thorn out. So in that way, we're using the Varnashram, our own material nature, to make progress in Krishna consciousness. Okay. Anything else? We want a little bit of Kirtan from you, Ben. Is that possible? To round off the evening? 5-minute Kirtan with Mridangam and so on?
Yeah.
Thank you. That is great. That has been a very wonderful assembly tonight, and we have made quite some progress and highlighted very important points. Microphone is all yours, Ben.
Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paskacha Desakarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Jaya Nitai Sachi Sundara, Nitai Sachi Sundara, Nitai Sachi Sundara, Nitai Sachi Sundara, Jaya Nitai Sachi Sundara, Nitai Sachi Sundara, Nitai Sachi Sundara, Nitai Sachi Sundara, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Giri Giri, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha. Harinam Sankirtan Krishna Lockdown Kirtan. Jai.
Jai. Translation. You.
The devotees of the Lord are just like desire trees, and they can fulfill the desires of all the conditioned souls due to their being full of compassion and the notion of mercy towards all the fallen conditioned souls. I know it's not 100% correct, but
yeah, that's fine. There's just one thing missing. Let us offer our respectful obeisances to such devotees.
Jai.
Jai, thank you. Hare Krishna. Here we stop our lockdown. Thank you, Amit, Ben, Dharm, Chayantibai, Rashmi, Samir, and Varshana Mataji. It was a beautiful program, a beautiful evening, and very lively and very instructive discussion. Thank you all, and we'll see you back on Wednesday. And the Bhagavatam becomes more and more interesting. I just connected the last bit of purport with the next verse. I looked because I wanted to mark the verse. And it said very interestingly, and we'll cover that next time, said Vyasadeva, he got the clue. He came to this conclusion devotional service was missing just at the same time when his spiritual master arrived at his cottage. So, same time, he got the clue and Gurudev came. That is very interesting. Okay. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. See you on Wednesday.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Lovely
Hare
service
Krishna.
tonight, everybody. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Keep well, keep safe, and chant Hare Krishna.